Good evening. Good evening. This is Jessica Dawson, and this is the Financial Drag Show. And I have my co-host April Fresh and Nicole
Wow.
Powers from this 55th Degree on the line. Say hello, ladies.
Hello,
Hello,
how
hello.
are you?
Doing wonderful. I am actually on location today. I am at an actual marketing event or a networking event at the Citrus Club in downtown Orlando on the 18th floor. Everybody here is networking and raising capital for their startup, and we could talk about that. But today, Nicole and April and I wanted to talk a little bit about your credit rating. Does anybody want to dive into that one, or would you like me to ask Nicole? What do you know about your credit rating?
I don't know too much. I just know that you need to pay things on time in order for it not to be damaged, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a very savvy person when it comes to like all the knowledge behind it. I just know, you have to pay things on time, and that's all I know.
April, what do you know about your credit rating?
I don't know anything about my particular credit rating. However, I do know that I cannot stand paying interest. So, like, let's say I have on my checking account, whenever I have, I think it's like the 16th of every month, my credit card is all automatically paid in full out of that. So I think I'm a rare case in a lot of ways because I don't want to pay any interest. And what I do is, if my credit card bill for that month is going to be $2,000, I just make sure I have more than $2,000 in there before the 16th.
You're like me, where if you use a credit card, I'm normally was paying it off every month, and that had my credit rating rather high. I believe it was up in the 813 range.
Yeah.
And your credit rating is based upon your history of your payments, how much credit you have out that you are not using. It explains that it's a history of how you pay your bills.
Exactly.
Even if you run up a lot of your credit and you're using a lot of it, as long as you're paying your bills, your credit is not going to be affected as much, but it does get affected some. I've talked to a lot of people who have had bad credit scores around 500, 600, and I've heard of some down to 450. Do y'all know how your credit rating affects you when you go to buy a car or a home or anything like that?
I don't really, so I would be interested in knowing a little bit more on that.
Yeah,
Nicole?
I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. I
So
don't know too much.
the system is set up to where they're watching every human being, I guess, with how they manage their money. And it actually does not do the person who is not good with money when they go in to buy a car. They're actually going to pay a higher interest rate because they are at higher risk. So they actually have to pay more for things than the people who have good credit, which is kind of weird, but it's that way. When you put yourself in a position and you're spending your money unwisely, then you can damage your credit rating. And if you go to buy a house, you go to buy a car, and you have bad credit, you're going to be paying more points. And when I say points, that's percentage points on your loans that you get from the bank or for a mortgage lender. So it really hinders you when you have a bad credit rating. And there are companies out there that assist you with fixing your credit. I should have brought a friend of mine on here when we were talking about this. He probably would have been able to explain this a little bit better. And I will have to have Lonnie come on, and hopefully in another week or two, we can flash back to our credit and we can promote him.
Yeah.
So what is did y'all do something crazy like I did right out of college? Or when you were younger with your credit, mess it up and have to fix it?
Yeah, I can go first. So when I was 18 years old, I was on I was at summer vacation with my parents, and I opened a Macy's credit card at 18 years old because I wanted to buy all these clothes. I didn't have any money. And the lady was like, "Oh, just open a Macy's credit card." So like I ended up spending $1,000 or something on clothes from Macy's.
And
And
what year was that?
well, that was a while
Well,
ago.
It was a
well,
while
yeah,
ago.
you would have been able to buy a lot of stuff though at 18,
Yeah,
over
they gave me like
over
$1,000, and it was in 2007. And I literally had just graduated high school like a couple weeks prior, and this was I was like tainted from day one because they're like, here's this, fake money. Like I didn't know anything about paying it back or anything. Like I had no clue. But yeah, that was rough because I didn't even have a job. Like what was I was a ballet dancer. I didn't make any money. Like I was just like, oh, like I think that teenagers think, 18 or 19-year-olds think when they get a credit card, they don't understand that you have to pay it back. I really did. Like it sounds stupid now, like in my 30s saying that, oh, I didn't know I have to pay it back. But I was like, oh, like I see my parents using this plastic money. Like, here's this credit card. Like, I don't know.
Locke. Did you have any crazy stories that you did when you were younger?
Yes, in my very early 20s, a friend and I went to London and we put everything on my credit card because there was something peculiar about his credit card, which was interesting, but he was going to pay me back, which didn't happen. Now, fortunately, though, what I was blessed with, my parents paid it off, and then I had to pay them back, and they had
That's
a
good.
little, we had an what is it, an amortizer and
Amortization.
Yeah.
and so they even made a little bit money off of it, and but I had to pay it off, and I had a chart, and I had, here's $20, and I took $20 off of the balance. So and in a way, that was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me about learning about finance and how you have to pay things back.
That's awesome.
Yes, it's I don't, even with going to school and studying finance, studying economics, when I got out of college, I myself ran up a nice bill on a credit card, and it'll get away from you.
Yeah.
And it got away from me, and I had to, Pops had to help me out a little bit. It took me quite a while to pay it down.
Yep.
I think every one of my paychecks, I had to, everything went to the credit card. Wasn't fun, but you learned a lesson. And that's how you learn. You'll make mistakes. It's guaranteed. Nobody gets to be an adult without making mistakes. If you're a younger person watching this, or you're out there, everybody's made mistakes. And this is one of the
you
reasons.
Learn from your mistakes, then it's not really a bad thing. Yes.
I think we're all learning lessons throughout our entire life. I think this is one of the main reasons why Nicole and I created the Fisk mobile tipping app, is to teach the younger generation to start investing. But it's, when you go to college and you're on college campus, there are people out there putting credit cards right in front of a student. You're going to class, you think that it's free money. And I saw one of my best friends in college go out and buy a computer, and everybody was hanging out at his house playing with his new computer. And then, oops, he had to pay for it, and he didn't have the money. So I think he got in a little bit of financial trouble at that point in time. But I can't blame him. When you're young, people will take advantage of you. And, that's what Nicole and I are trying to make it to, where by teaching people finance through the mobile application and trying to get the compound interest in their favor, compared to having interest hit on your credit cards, which is going negative. Now, in a startup, a lot of people like myself, you're using your credit card as cash. And if you know what you're doing, and I'll run it up to the red, and it makes me nervous at times, but it's numbers on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to balance the money coming in that you do have coming in, and you're moving money around, spending some of your, I guess, your nest egg that you had when you have a startup. And I don't mind doing that, because when the application is done, I should be making a little bit more money than I was at my last career, and I should be able to pay my bills off quickly. That's the game plan. But have y'all had a lot of your friends get in a lot of financial troubles?
I have had lots of people that have told me lots of sob stories. So yes, I think it happens to everybody in some way.
I feel like it's not really talked about too much either, because it's sort of like muddy conversations. It's not something you talk about over drinks with friends. So I don't really know.
It is kind of hush hush. No one really talks about the problems that they've had with money. One of the things, if you let someone borrow money, you can probably consider yourself just giving that money away, because one thing that will drive you crazy if you let someone borrow some money is you'll see them out on the town spending more money and not paying their debt to you off, because you didn't write it in the contract, or you did not have terms and agreement that they have to pay it back by so-and-so time. And Nicole, I mean, with your background, making up a quick agreement, is it as easy as scratching something on a piece of paper with terms?
Yeah, and I can't offer any legal advice, but like a contract is it could be a pretty simple thing. It could be like on a napkin at a restaurant, and just say that I agree to pay so and so back by so and so date, or payments for this long until this is satisfied. And it could be something very simple. And but you only want a contract if you think that you're going to enforce something later if the contract is not fulfilled, right? So if most of the time, if a friend asks you for money, and you want to loan it to them, you probably won't draw a contract up because you trust your friend. But if you don't trust this person, you probably wouldn't loan them money. But yeah, make a contract up. I mean, it just is another leg to stand on. But I think what you said earlier, that if you loan money to a friend, consider it gone.
Yeah.
Yes, and you can lose friends, you can lose family members, you won't talk to them. They won't be upset because they're not going to pay you back, but it has broken up so many relationships. It's in the top 5 relationship problems that's out there. And, if you look at our country, everybody's up in arms right now over finance. Yes. It's a majority of it is finance, and there's ways to fix it. There's a mathematical equation for everything.
So where are you heading off to tonight, April, to perform? Tell us about tonight's performance.
Today I am calling bingo at Playa Pizza, which is across the street from Magic Kingdom.
Okay, last week you were going to the pizza spot, so this is your
this is my Monday night gig. Yeah,
I love it. Okay,
how was Friday night? I missed it. I had an actual potential client up here, and it ran over here at the club, and we were not able to make it over there to Friday night.
Friday night was good. It was at Jack and Honey's, which is the old 808, which is the old Dexter's, and it was April Fresh's Ladies of the 80s. So it was a drag show, but also a dance party. So it was a lot of fun.
How did they rearrange the actual location or change it out a lot?
They have added a lot of booths in there. There's actually more seating, and they've changed the decor and changed the bar. And the bar is the same structure, but like they put a new bar top on it. It's really beautiful. And the menu is very good too.
Now, how's the stage for all the performers? Is it still in the corner?
It's kind of in the corner, yeah, but we're kind of just out and about performing all around the people. So it's not really, it's definitely not like a stage like we think of, but it's more like, since it's a restaurant, we just kind of go around to the different tables and stuff. And
Well, I noticed that, when I've seen Billy Mick, he was
yes,
one of our other queens on the Financial Drag Show when you're not around.
yeah, he's
And
great. I
watch
love him.
Billy's a great performer. Do you think that a lot of the fun when you're performing is actually getting the money from the patrons and collecting the cash?
Well, of course, that's the fun part, but it's actually, I like the interaction. And, sometimes when you're on a big stage, I remember back in the days when the people in the audience would come up to you and tip. I kind of like going out through the audience even better because you get to see their expressions and stuff.
Now, when you're performing, are you lip syncing or are you actually singing?
I am a terrible singer, so I will always lip sync.
Okay. Now, everybody knows that my late partner, he was a famous
Yeah.
performer and drag queen in Orlando, and
Best.
Miss Sammy, was an actual singer, was on Broadway for 10 years.
Yep.
And when ballet and Nicole and him really got tight, talking about ballet at
Yeah.
one point in time, but he liked, he worked at Hamburger Mary's.
Yes.
And I've been over there for a few times and watched their shows in the mornings on the
Mhm.
weekends, and they have got some great performers over there
I'm
that
there
are.
this coming Saturday night for the night show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Then if I'm free, I'm coming to follow. I can go over there and talk to John.
Absolutely. He's wonderful.
Yes. But to get everything back into the finance, if everybody's collecting tips, cash tips, do you ever feel there's a security risk when you're walking out to the car with all your cash?
I'm always on guard.
That's
Do you
like
know?
that's like a threatening question. I feel like
Yeah.
are you scared all the time? I wouldn't even know how to answer that. I would say,
Exactly.
yeah. When I
I'm
was
not scared, but I always keep it well hidden and well tucked away.
yeah,
Right. Well,
I was
that's
a
where. Go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, I was gonna say when I was a server at this Greek restaurant in college, um, we weren't like strippers or anything, but that we still had the managers walk us out to our cars. And
Mhm.
I always loved that. Like, even if people just walk out together, like
Correct.
that's fine. And the reason
Yeah.
I
So
say
what I've
strippers is because like I know that like strippers get the bouncers to walk them out or something like that just to not get harassed.
Yeah.
not get harassed and not get their tips that they worked all night for just taken by somebody. And with the Fisk mobile tipping application in the future, you will be able to take your performance money or whatever cash you have acquired during your show and walk over to the manager and hand that money to the bartender, and they will be able to take the application that the bar has and send the money that you have just performed for or just acquired, and they'll send it through the app. So before you even leave the restaurant or wherever you're at performing, the money is already on your debit card, and that other portion is already headed to your investment account of choosing. And we look at that as a big safety feature because if you don't have it on you, it's not going to be taken from you.
Yeah, and that could work for a bartender, anybody in any tipped position, really.
I love that.
Yes.
Mhm.
I had a friend of mine who had ran his credit up or had been damaged in a relationship with his ex-wife. Of course, you only hear one side of the story. And he was actually the only way that he could get his paycheck was to go to one of those 24-hour paycheck
Oh, gotcha. Like a
cashing
cash
places. Yes. And this friend of mine actually had cash in his truck a few times, and it was stolen out of his truck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, God, if he would have had an application, but if he ran up his ruined his credit, they can take money out of your account. The IRS, they don't play.
Yeah,
I've
they're
had a
not
friend of
something that you want to mess around with.
No, the IRS, you are compliant. You know, Nicole and I looked at being compliant with everything all the time with the IRS. They're going to fine you. And they're going to make your life miserable. They'll garnish wages. Garnishing your wages means that they're going to take your paycheck before it gets to you.
Yeah.
And that's not a fun thing to think about. If you owe the IRS money, they're going to come after it. So,
Yeah.
but that goes into, you know, you got to pay your bills. We look at, you know, you need to have a safety net, which is the rainy day fund that I believe Dave Ramsey calls it. I have another term for it, which is and there's a bad word behind it, fund. In case something breaks on your automobile,
Yeah.
you're able to say a few of those nasty words and then go get it fixed.
Correct.
Running on vapors is not fun. It's stressful, but it can be done. It's like I said, it's all numbers on a spreadsheet. Nicole and we're constantly talking about finances with the company, and I don't know if you've known that we are crowdfunding right now, officially live with our crowd fund. Nicole, she was able to put her first video up this morning. Was morning this afternoon, Nicole?
This morning, my morning, your afternoon. I'm more of a night owl.
So she how many takes did it take? It's hard to actually have a script or something like that and read it on.
It's very hard. A lot of takes.
But it came out good. If y'all go to WeFunder and you want to invest in the 55th degree with in the Fisk mobile tipping, you can look up the 55th degree and see our pitch deck. You can see Nicole and her video. She talks about the reason why we made Fisk mobile tipping and what it does. It is a tipping and gratuity application that splits the incoming tips, puts it on a virtual debit card, and a portion goes to the investment account of choosing. We like it when you put a long-term investment account up to it, that when someone is tipping you, they are actually altering your future and the country's future at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I try to channel my inner Jessica today and say, when you tip someone, are you not altering their future? She always says that. So
yeah.
I you know, I'm not as good as her, but I try.
No, that's not true. When the words are flowing off Nicole's mouth, I've heard her write some poetry before, and it'll almost bring you to tears. She's very good at what she does. And as long as
for fairies.
whatever, you know, I like poetry.
I guess I'm a fairy, but no, April, I want to know more about the drag part of you, because this is a financial drag show.
Sure.
And if you've made it this far, you know, we really don't want to be a boring show. So tell us.
Well, first of all, we are two trans women and a drag queen talking about finance. So I don't think that's boring at all, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, you know, if I knew Jessica, I'd probably stick around for this long. If you don't know us and you're still here, things are going to heat up and get exciting. So tell us about a story. You've been doing drag for how long again?
Many, many years, like 24, something like that.
24 years. Okay. So 24 years ago was what, like 2001?
Yeah, 90. I think 99 is when I would officially have started.
Okay.
Oh, Y2K, before Y2K.
Yeah.
So in 2000, like, what's the biggest thing that's changed in the world of drag, would you say, from 2000 to now? Like, it could be like whatever, the queens, the outfits, the wigs, the mute, like, what's the biggest thing?
Well, I think a lot of it back in those days, if you were in a drag show, it was in a smoky bar on a Saturday night at midnight, where now there's drag at restaurants and at all different kinds of venues, and they're not necessarily for
Pizza shops.
They're at pizza places, exactly, and swingers resorts, and
Wow, okay.
everywhere.
Very
So
cool.
it's interesting where there's definitely more of a market, because I think it's more in the media with
Mhm.
RuPaul's Drag Race and stuff like that. So even though I've never been on that show, it has still benefited me because it brings drag to the forefront. And
So if
it
somebody wanted to do drag, can you just Google like drag jobs near me, or how do you get a
You
job as a
can.
drag queen?
There's even what is it? I think it's called Gig Salad. I'm not on it, but that's one of those, a lot of times a bachelorette party wants to just hire a drag queen,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
for a wedding, or for a birthday party or something. So there's lots of venues to get a gig,
yeah.
but also, now the when I think a lot of it comes with having done it for a while, and having a following, because when you start, it's kind of, you're hoping to win a talent show, and maybe if you're wild and really good, you could get a $50 booking, where now
Mm,
there's a lot more money that can potentially be made if
sure.
if you get your own gigs.
So I cut you off like 6 times. So what is the biggest
Uh,
difference between 2000 and now? And we want to definitely learn more about how to become a drag queen if you're interested.
yeah, I would say there's a lot, as far as if you're starting out, you do kind of have to make yourself known, and that's
Mm,
what takes the longest. But if you show up to different venues and different events in face, people start to get to know who you are, and then you're gonna get work. But
okay.
I think that there's just a lot more opportunities now than there were like in 99, 2000.
Okay. So the field is bigger, but there's more opportunities now.
Correct. Now
Okay.
on the other side, there's also a lot more girls now. Uh,
Hmm.
so it kind of, it's not like everyone can be, as they say, booked and blessed, but there are opportunities out there if people want them hard enough, or want them enough, and are going to put in the work to get them.
So
Okay.
I got a question, April.
Mhm.
What is the difference between a drag queen and a drag king?
Well, it's typically speaking, there's all sorts of variations, but a drag queen is a male that is putting on female attire, and then a drag king is the reverse. So it's usually a biological female that is putting on a man's attire.
Is
Yeah.
that as popular?
Maybe not as popular, no, but it's definitely growing. But with that, especially in 2023, almost 2024, can you believe it? There's so many different classifications. There are AFAB queens, which is a biological female. I think genetic is probably a better word. A genetic female that's still dressing up like me and putting on the makeup and the hip pads and everything, but they're still a female
I've
portraying a
seen
female.
that, and I saw like one of
Yeah.
my favorite queens from RuPaul. I think her name is Milk Got Mick.
Got Mick.
Yeah,
Got
yeah,
Mick.
yeah. Well, I think that he is a trans man that still,
Correct.
yeah, it's very confusing, but very cool. Still a great artist.
An amazing artist,
Yeah.
and it's kind of cool because when I started, that's another big difference from 2000. Back then, it was very much a man dressing as a woman. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean they couldn't be trans, but
Yeah.
it was. Now there's so many. I mean, RuPaul said it best. She said, "We're all born naked and the rest is drag." And I do see what
I love
she's
that.
saying, because every day we get up and put on our clothes, we're putting on something so that the world will see us in this particular light. So it's kind of interesting. So really, every single one of us every day is in drag.
Well,
But
it's
So
everybody's putting on character clothes, and a
correct.
business person wears business attire. I dress for success all the time. You're going to catch me in a business suit or a business dress. I don't play. It's all about the way I want to come across as a leader of a financial technology company, and
Right.
with my degree and everything like that. A lot of people do think that transgender people are doing drag, and that's not true.
At all.
So,
So,
I've lived my life for 5 years as a woman. And I lived the rest of it as a man. And it's kind of unusual that I have data in my head that is different from most people. I've got both sides, living as a woman and living as a man. So it's
Right.
interesting.
well, I just kind of live what you said, the RuPaul way is just whatever I wake up that day is what I'll end up being. I like
Yeah.
that. But let me ask you a muddy question. And since we are on the financial drag show, if you are a newcomer to drag, and let's say you, like you say, show up to face at a club and someone's like, oh, I like your look. Why don't you come and perform next week? What should you expect to charge or make as a new drag queen at like a small gay bar or something like that? What
Sure.
should they expect?
Well, they should ask immediately, is there pay and what is it? Because a lot of
Mm.
people want them to come in and just work for tips,
Hmm.
which, depending on the venue, might be okay, because you might end up with 40, 50, 75, $100 in tips if you're that good. But it's important. I treat it like a business, in the sense that, okay, what is the pay and how many numbers and what are my expectations? Because I think some club, depending, it could be anywhere from not getting paid anything at all to $50, or it could be $125
Mm.
just in pay. Kind of depends on the club and the venue, and how much how much importance they're putting on the drag show for their entertainment, you know?
Yeah. So is there a possibility ever, I want to say the answer is no, but would the club ever request that you split your tips with the club?
I have never heard
Okay.
of that. Yeah,
Okay,
so
good.
I don't think so.
That's good. So no one should ever be worried about, oh, like all the tips I make, those are mine.
Correct, exactly. In fact, it's a very rare situation where even the girls in the show would pull any kind of tips. It's usually each girl would get their own tips.
Now,
for the
is there ever like I'm gonna call it a scheme, but is there ever like a scenario where like a club would say, oh, you could perform here, but it's gonna cost you X amount, and then you keep your tips, obviously. Is that something that's ever happened?
I haven't heard that. I have
Okay.
heard a lot of people working for no pay and
Okay.
just for tips, though. I think that's kind of where that starts. But that's not bad for the club, because it's not costing them anything. And in theory, they're getting a bigger crowd.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they get, live performance for
Correct.
free.
So I have a question. Who is the lead drag queen in a show? Is there a particular name for that person other than the host, and do they get paid more normally?
It's usually, they just call them the host or the MC. And they usually get paid a little bit more, usually.
Are there what they call drag mothers? Is that a term I've heard
Yes,
before?
that is a term. That
Now,
is
what is
definitely
that?
a term. So that is somebody who is your mentor and kind of puts you, they might be the one that paints your face the first few times until you're comfortable. They will, there's a lot of, it'll be like the house. Like there was Tandy Andrews, and then there was Erica Andrews, her daughter, and then Roxy Andrews is one of her daughters. So it kind of some of the houses will be legendary for years. There's lots of Bonets, there's lots of Sanchez's, and there's the list goes on and on. But it's
Is there a
interesting.
House of Fresh yet?
Not yet, because I don't want any babies. my eggs have dried up. And I have certainly helped other people, but I'm like, just so you know, I'll paint your face, but I'm not your drag mother. And they're like, okay.
That's awesome. Let me ask you, how many different hairstyles does April have?
She has, let's see, just in her drag room, which is in the next room, there are probably 30 already styled wigs, and then about another 30 wigs like this that I can just throw on.
Wow.
Yeah, she can take over.
I can imagine. What do you end up spending a lot of money on all of this stuff? And as someone who is transgender, starts off a lot of times doing drag,
Sure.
which is what I did, and you go through your stages of purging because it hurt your head, and society twists your head up, and then after a while, you just you're here on the planet to make yourself happy, and I'm not here to make anybody else happy but myself, and I'm trying to make people happy with creating the mobile application that with Nicole that alters the future of the country.
Yeah.
I
Right.
talked to a ghostwriter tonight at this entrepreneur in Orlando who wants to help write the book. And the documentary, I told everybody it leads into a movie, and it's all coming.
It's very cool.
So when are you going to jump on the investment team there, April? So putting you on the spot.
Well, let me get some money and then I'll maybe invest.
That's true. Yeah, on the WeFunder, it's not as we tell a lot of people, it's not as crazy as you think when you're doing a crowd fund.
Yeah.
The minimum to come in is $100, and you're actually getting a safe note, which then will convert into equity in the future.
That's cool.
So
I think we're close to time. I think it's 8:42. Are we about half an hour, Jess?
I think we're a little bit over. We just want to say goodnight to everybody. This is the 55th Degree on, I'm the CEO of the 55th Degree. Nicole's the COO of the company. The Financial Drag Show is really put on by the Double Nickel Productions, which is our media side that we have. There are some other things coming out of the Double Nickel Productions, and we could talk about the numbers, but that's another day. Again, this is Jessica Dawson with the Financial Drag Show.
And I'm Nicole Powers.
And I'm Central Florida's favorite drag queen 2023, April Fresh. See you next time.
Bye.
Have a good night, y'all.